So having been injured, my family were incredibly supportive of me throughout the rehab process. It certainly affected all of them, seeing what had happened to me, and I remember feeling incredibly guilty for putting that on my family, and watching them struggle with how that kind of unfolded, and seeing the sort of struggles that I was now having. My name's Neil Heritage. I served in the Army in the Royal Signals for about 10 years, and I've been a Blesma member since 2004. I didn't actually see the incident happen. All I knew was I was sort of stood at the back of a vehicle, then I was inside the vehicle, then I remember being sort of engulfed in flames, and then I threw myself out of the vehicle that was on fire onto the road, and instead of landing on my legs, I just landed on the stumps that were left. And that was the sort of first time I realised, that I'd lost my legs. I woke up in Birmingham about 10 days later, I think. My initial feelings when I woke up was relief. I certainly didn't think I was going to survive the incident, so the fact that I was waking up, I guess, was a huge relief. And then very quickly after that I was told, oh, also you're going to be a dad. So there was a baby scan, and that was kind of waved in front of my face. And yeah, that's my memory of the first sort of moments of waking up. Actually a really kind of positive day, I guess, which sounds crazy. I think probably a little bit after that, the realisation of the severity of what had happened to me and what the impacts that was going to be on my life, that kind of came a little bit later, I think. Laying in hospital thinking, how does this change my life? I had a really difficult few days. I was incredibly upset, really worried about, not only, obviously I've lost my job effectively, didn't know what I was going to do. There's a baby on the way. How am I going to support a family, and how am I going to be a dad even? That's the kind of thing that was going through my mind. So anything outdoors, active is probably, certainly at that stage when you're in a hospital bed, feels impossible. It's the losing your friends that you live and work with every day, and have travelled around the world with. They're going to move on and do other things, and you're going to go another way. I don't really remember Mia asking any questions about, why haven't you got any legs? I think it was when she went to school that it kind of kicked in, a realisation that something a bit different was going on. But that's kind of when I remember her asking some questions about that. And I just told her in a very kind of clear way that's I was hurt at work, and now I've got robot legs, as she would have called them at the time, instead of actual legs. That's been how she knows me. I think certainly when she was at school, I think it was difficult not because she felt she was missing out on anything, because other kids would perhaps make fun of me or whatever, and that was quite hard for her, I think. It took quite a long time for it to be a normal part of my life, and I think it was probably around 5 years post-injury where I was really in a routine of get up, have a shower, put my legs on, get on with my normal day, and that feel normal. Certainly in the early years, almost a dread to putting these legs on that I knew were probably going to hurt. I knew something was going to be sore. I knew I might fall over. So it took me a real long time, certainly compared to other amputees that I know, to get to that stage of normal. Now it's just part of my life, and I'm now approaching a time where I've almost been an amputee as long as I was not an amputee.